Are you helping?
Are we live? Yay! Let me double check on my channel that we're actually live.
Are our thumbnails smaller than usual? Or is this what it's usually like?
It's
And
usually like
It's
this when you
because
have
we
5
usually
people.
We usually have
Oh,
4, but
okay.
today we have 5. We are more of us, hooray!
Yeah,
The
that's a
cells
good
have
thing.
split.
Welcome everyone, if anyone's watching. Welcome to our March
Yeah,
already,
March.
Stitch and Bitch. Oh no. We are on my channel, The Fancy Hat Lady Reads. We have all of us today, including Bree, which is very exciting. So if we want to introduce ourselves, I'm gonna start with Bree.
Oh, hi. I'm Bree. My channel is Bree Reads Books, where I very, very occasionally post science fiction and fantasy content. And I'm happy to be here this week. It's been a little bit.
Going in reverse. Wait, that's called counterclockwise. Counterclockwise order, Rachel.
I'm Rachel. My channel is Culinati, though I don't post there regularly anymore, other than hosting Stitch and Bitch. And I read lots of science fiction, fantasy, nonfiction, manga these days. So, yep.
Kelsey, if you want a more whimsical word, Widdershins is for Kelsey.
Oh yes,
Oh,
that's a good
yeah.
Widder,
Yeah.
with what?
Widdershins.
It means
Widdershins?
counterclockwise. So we're going Widdershins. Di is next.
Hi, my name's Diana. My channel is Bookish Die. I have not been posting because of the horrors. I'm hoping to get some stuff recorded in the next week and start posting regularly, though, semi-regularly. And I mostly read SFF, although lately it's been a lot of nonfiction.
Rhea?
Yes, my name is Rhea, and my channel is The Bookfinch, where I also mostly host the Stitch and Bitch nowadays. I read mostly fantasy, and these days I have also been quite heavily reading romance and fantasy romance, webtoon manga, all sorts of different formats. Occasionally I dip into science fiction as well.
Guys, look, we have our first kitty.
Leia!
So
Princess!
soft and fat.
Leia
so
is
soft.
our first feline of the stream.
I can also show the second one since he's still here.
Second
Hermes.
feline of the stream.
He's been sleeping there for the last 2 hours.
Oh my
He's
goodness.
showing no sign of like leaving.
So
God, to be a
cozy.
cat and just sleep all day.
And can we call out Rhea's Worldcon shirt real quick?
Yes,
Nice.
Ooh,
Helsinki, baby.
27.
I hope we go back to Helsinki sometime.
I mean,
really like
Dublin is doing a bid. So in future, hopefully. Ava! Oh my
Yeah,
God.
Dublin's bidding for 29.
Yeah.
We have an honorary
I saw that
feline.
Tel Aviv dropped out for 2027, so that just leaves Montreal, which I would totally be down for. I've never been to Montreal.
Without going into any details, I would very much like for non-American bids. Thank you.
Yeah, I have a few.
Without
I
going into
Well,
Yeah,
aren't the
otherwise.
next two are Montreal and Brisbane?
Brisbane, yeah.
Yeah.
And then Dublin for 29, and I think there's other non-US bids coming as well.
Yeah, I saw
I would not be
Kigali and
surprised at
Rwanda was
all.
bidding, I think for 29 or 28.
Who is?
Kigali and Rwanda.
Oh, I hadn't heard.
Interesting.
I
It
think
was
that
on the
they
website. Someone shared a
submitted-
screenshot in Mari's Discord.
Yeah, my understanding is that there hasn't been any motion on their bid since they filed the initial bid.
Okay.
So I would be a little surprised unless they're
My
rallying secretly behind the scenes.
understanding was that that was the Uganda bid, but they changed the location.
Yep, they did.
Is anyone crafting
I am.
today?
Yes.
Yes. Okay, Bree, what are you crafting?
I am doing a test knit for the Forests of Arda sweater, which is coming out, and it is a Lord of the Rings colorwork cable sweater.
Ooh.
Oh.
I'm super excited about it. It has the trees along the bottom and then like bracer style sleeves with the leaves and like wood buttons as though you were wearing like the cloak from Rivendell.
Oh, cool.
Leia?
Who's the designer?
Let me look because I just know her by her first name.
Yeah, share the
I'm-
source
Absolutely,
and
hold on.
pattern.
I'm surprised that this hasn't shown up like on Instagram for me or something.
If you want to send me a link, I can drop it in the chat.
Absolutely. I just need to make sure that I'm getting through.
Leia, please stop being a menace.
She's a cat. She can't do that.
So
You're asking her to act against her nature.
It's round.
Luke is
tree
never a
stitchery.
menace when it comes to my knitting. Thank you very much. It's just Leia who loves yarn.
That's princess behavior,
She's a queen.
asserting dominance.
She's a general.
And here I'll pull. There's a cowl for it already. If anybody likes cowls, I guess, or wants to try out some color work.
I have. She has the cowl version.
Yes.
Okay.
Okay,
Yes.
And so I'm super excited to be like working on this, and hopefully I'll be done with the body here like in the next day or two,
Nice.
and then I can do the sleeves.
Oh my god, she has a sweater called the Diana sweater. I would look terrible
Wait.
in it, but I love it.
Are you going to
I-
send me a link or
Hold on.
It's in the private chat.
Yeah,
It's
Bree
in the-
designer.
It's not a link in the private chat. Hold on. I can
I just keep messing up this pattern. Okay, I'm giving up. This is an intuitive pattern follow from now on. This is like
But I saw colorwork cables and it looked like the Lord of the Rings, and I was like, yes, please.
That style, that way of integrating the color work and the cables reminds me of some
Very
other
custom.
designer who is doing like a series of really cool like hats
Mhm.
that way, but all of her patterns were no longer available. And it was so frustrating. So I'm very curious about this now.
Yeah. You should try it out because I think it would be really fun to wear it. Like it's a steeked cardigan too, so you cut open the front of it after you're done knitting, which gives knitters like a heart attack. And then you apply an edge, and so I think it would be really lovely to wear open it for like a cool Worldcon morning. But
I
we'll
am
see.
interested in the cowl version. I will definitely check that out.
I'm going to show a comment here. Hello, welcome. We were discussing Worldcon bids. There is one for Montreal, and someone else further up in the chat discussed TBR for the Trans Rights Readathon, which is coming up at the end of the month. I might be participating in that. I don't know if I'll like. Yeah.
Oh yeah, I'm planning on participating as well. I need to figure out where I want to donate.
So we can definitely discuss like TBR options for Trans Rights Readathon, because like that's on my mind as well later in the stream, picking out books for that. But did we? I'm not good at moderating these streams. Where were we? Who was
We
talking
were
about
talking about
that?
what we were making. So Brie was talking about her test net.
Yeah, and so we can go around whichever direction.
Are we going wind shims again?
But yes, we were theoretically talking about crafts as well as Spanish activities. We'll get to everything. Don't worry. Rachel, what are you working on?
I am working on the Deep Winter cardigan by Woolen Pine, and oh yeah, you can actually see it now.
Oh, that's pretty.
Ooh,
So-
cool.
That's beautiful. Look at that cable work, Rachel.
It should be working up very fast because I'm holding so almost like worsted weight yarn double. So the gauge on this is huge, like 14, 15 stitches per inch. But I have been crawling along with this. I don't know why. I'm not good when I have 3 separate cable charts to follow while I'm doing this now, and it's a pain in the butt to find like a way to spread it out next to me, so it's not portable. But yeah, I hope to get this done, and I hope it will fit because it seems awfully small right now. So
Di, are you working on something?
Yeah, so if folks remember last week, I had frogged a project and I was in the midst of untangling yarn. I untangled the yarn that day. We are not going to talk about how many hours it took me.
Too many to count.
were you up to the wee hours of the morning on that one, or was it?
I mean, it was not wee hours in the morning for me, but I
Oh.
don't know.
Okay.
But I have restarted it. The edges are still a little that one edge is still a little wonky just because of how I've been alternating the skeins, but I think it's not as bad as it was, and I'm just gonna kind of like accept that it's gonna be a little weird. But it's a wrap, and I don't know if you can see it, but it's like a breaker like wave like pattern.
Oh yeah, I can see that.
So I finished the big ones, and now I'm moving on to the medium wave. So I like it because it's a little bit of lace work, but it's like very easy lace work. Like the pattern's like, oh, this is intermediate lace. I'm like, this is not. This is beginning. Like you're just doing knit together, purl together, yarn over. But yeah, I'm enjoying it. I had a very long plane ride, so I did a lot of knitting on that.
And Ray, are you still
I am still working on my Scottish Thistle bookmark, but I'm getting there.
It looks so good.
It's also so wrong because apparently, this part was supposed to be a blend, and this part as well was supposed to be a blend of the green and purple, and these light purple ones were supposed to be a blend of the green and purple as well. But I noticed it only last week that I hadn't been following or that I've misread the pattern, and I'm not gonna.
No, it looks phenomenal without it. You're good.
Yeah.
It looks good enough that it's making me a little jealous that I didn't buy one of those kits when we were in that gift shop. I was like, nah, I don't do cross stitch. But
I'm actually really this is the first proper cross stitch that I'm doing, and I've actually really enjoyed it. And I noticed that Seattle Worldcon has free patterns for cross stitch and specifically for bookmarks as well. So I'm actually thinking that I'm gonna go to my local craft store and get some of this cross stitch fabric, and I'm gonna try and start another cross stitch project after I finish this one. I was thinking
about the same thing, that it would be fun to do those.
I still haven't looked at them, and now I'm curious.
They're very
the bookmark I think is really nice, and there's also one for the Seattle Worldcon logo, which is also really interesting. You could do a little what's it in Finnish? It's called huoneentaulu, which is basically like a room portrait or like a room like painting, but it's not a painting.
Oh, like a mural?
Yeah, kind of like a frame
Oh,
that you put in a room. Cross stitching is like hugely popular. Like my mom has these like framed cross stitches, like proper painting frames, and they're all like
yeah.
cross stitch work.
We just call it framed cross stitch.
Yeah.
Oh,
There's not like a fancy word for it. Or there might be, but it's the kind of fancy word that only somebody who's into cross stitch would know.
My one of my aunts has been into cross stitch for decades, and I think that's like the primary decoration in her house. But she made a cross stitch piece that's like 5 feet wide, and they got it framed and it's in a special place in their house. And I was like,
Oh my God.
dedication, man.
oh,
The cross stitch that happens for the state fair here is like phenomenal, and it's like 3 feet by 2 feet, a whole like 3,000 stitches, and I'm like, you're so patient.
my mom did like cross stitch portrait of of my childhood home. So basically, she did her own patterns for cross stitch. So basically, what she did was kind of pixel art from like photos, and then she would cross stitch that.
That's cool.
That appeals to every part of the like sappy bit of me. I'm gonna pull up the.
It's like its own like talent, really, because I've never had the eye for that kind of thing where you can just like kind of, and she did it completely manually, like no calculating or anything, just like, okay, this is about as many pixels of like this and this color, and then through trial and error she would just do that, and I'm like, yeah, I don't have the my brain just does not bend that way.
Mhm. I'm dropping the cross stitch patterns in the chat for Kelsey, but maybe we should do like a June cross stitch thing.
I really like that Worlds of Reading bookmark.
Yeah, that's the
That's
one that I'm kind of
cool.
planning on doing.
I have
next.
not done cross stitch in a really long time, like 2 decades.
I feel like this
I don't
is
think I've ever done
manageable
it.
because it's relatively like they're bookmarks, so they're like relatively small.
Yeah.
I really like the geometric one, and the books of the Worlds of Reading is so cute.
Yeah.
But yeah, the bookmark is what I am making, and it's coming along.
Is the martini the drink of Seattle Worldcon?
I'm pretty sure they're going with a very retro futurist Jetsons vibe.
Oh, okay.
Is Martini from Seattle?
No.
No.
I know Seattle is big on coffee. Right?
I said that so confidently, and I could not tell you the history of the martini to save my life.
I'm
So-
from Seattle, so I would know if martinis are from Seattle. I don't know where they are from.
I'm gonna look it up because I am curious.
Also, they have coloring pages, which
Yes, they do.
I don't know if I like any of them, but I like the idea.
All right, so speaking of Worldcon, guys,
Wait,
WNBA game. Who wants to go see sports with me? Okay, I got
Is
Bree.
this basketball?
I will
Can,
yay sports.
can I
with you.
say what my craft is before
Yes.
I'm done?
Yes.
with it?
Yes. Go ahead.
I'm about to finish the bit of work that I had set up for myself for this entire stream because I planned so badly. So this is the skirt project that like last year I bought this trim,
Oh,
this lace trim to replace the tulle ruffle on this skirt that I made in college. And I am not yet at a point where I can sew anything, but right now I am just doing an experimental pinning because I had been assuming I would gather this like the tulle was gathered, but I don't have enough of it for there to be very much gathering. It would be just like not very gathered. And I'm wondering what it would look like if it were not gathered at all, because that would make it so much easier on me if it looked all right. So I have just done an experimental pinning on.
That's pretty to do in that like darker
Very-
berry red.
Mhm.
very loosely this trim, so I can try this on, hopefully with all of you here. I'm gonna try it on over my pants and just see if it looks all right, not gathered, because that would make my job easier, because I'm hand sewing this, even though the skirt was machine sewed, because when I made this, I was taking classes in a college with a costume shop, and I had access to sewing machines, which I don't know because I live in a tiny apartment. Okay.
Oh yeah, I think that's
I
gonna
actually
That's
think that
super
looks really
cute.
good.
yeah.
I
Yeah.
wouldn't
Can you
gather
guys see
it.
it against my pants, which are like the exact same color?
I think it's cute.
Yeah, I would not worry about gathering it. I think it looks
Yeah.
really nice.
Okay.
And I
So
think with the tool, because the tool, like, it seems like the trim is a more like robust
It is, yeah.
fabric than the tool. So the gathers most likely would be a bit heavy
Yeah, and
compared to the tool.
it would make it hard to hand sew that gathered
Mhm.
fabric. It would just be, and it would be really difficult to get it even.
Yeah, I would
with
just
how
forego the
long
gathering.
that
It
hem
look-
is, and I'm doing it all by hand, and if it's gonna work without gathering it, this is useful information.
Yeah, I think it
I'm
looks
not
really
prepared
nice.
to actually sew anything yet, but this was today's project, and it's done. Woo! I am now not crafting anything.
You have it pinned on loosely. You could start hand
I
stitching.
have it pinned on wrong though, and I think I may need to purchase pinking shears before I can continue with this project, because I realized I don't have any.
Pinking shears or freight check.
Great check.
Or what?
Freight check is like a textile glue that you can also use for basically just dabbing over the raw edge, and it prevents
Maybe.
it from tearing or
Yeah,
like
I think that when I
unraveling.
sewed this skirt, the pattern had me use pinking shears on like everything, so I was just assuming I would try to match that. But yeah, the trim came like with the top scalloped like this, but it's big scalloping, and it's already like fraying a bit
Mhm.
from sitting in my closet for a year.
Look who's here.
Void boy.
The kiddo in my house has been in love with the original Star Wars. He asks for it all the time, except for we started off by watching Star Trek, and he tells me, "Mommy, I want Star Trek, but with robots."
So I've been
cute.
I've started going to every Wednesday. Me and my friends go to this pub quiz. So there's this like regional pub quiz championship going on. So we're going every week. And last time there was the last question was, how many Star Trek movies have there been made? And I was like, this is my time. This is my time. And I started counting them, and I was like, okay, I'm pretty sure this is it. And I missed by one.
Yeah, 'cause
Did you
there
forget
was
the Christmas special?
No, this is Star Trek, not Star Wars.
Star
Oh,
Trek,
Star
yeah.
Trek.
So
Yeah,
there's
yeah, yeah.
There's
13
the
Star
6 with
Trek
the original
movies.
series cast. There's
Yeah,
4 with Picard,
yeah.
and then
And
Yeah.
there's
3 new ones.
3 with the new
3 new
one.
ones.
Yeah, I
And then
missed
I don't know
one
if we're
of
counting
the.
section 31.
I'm not sure whether I think I missed either one of Picard's run or one of Kirk's.
I mean, I think we all try to forget Nemesis, but
See, here's the thing. Nemesis
My
is
hot take is
bad.
that I really like Nemesis, but I was like so young when I watched it that it just was like visually cool to me.
I think Nemesis is the only Picard Star Trek movie I've seen.
Oh no,
And-
that's bad.
And I saw it. Because my parents are big Star Trek fans, and so they got it and we watched it. And I don't think at that time I had ever watched any Star Trek before, so it's probably like my first exposure to Star Trek. And it's also the one that has Tom Hardy in it.
Yes.
Yeah, Tom
Extremely young
Hardy
Tom
is young
Hardy.
Picard.
And all I can tell you about that movie, I remember nothing except I had like a very intense obsession with a young Tom Hardy after that movie.
Yeah,
Amazing.
so I grew up
Weird
in a-
level of obsession.
Yeah, I grew up in a household where my dad liked both Star Wars and Star Trek, so I watched both growing up. Although I only really watched DS9 and Voyager because that's what was airing when I was growing up, and so I only watched like really isolated TNG episodes. But I did see the movies, and I remember when First Contact came out. I think it was right around the time when Babe came out. And so my dad was
You
like,
did
"Oh, we
good,
should watch
pig."
it. The farmer from Babe is here."
So
And my sister and I were like, "Oh my god, it's the farmer
So-
from Babe!" And then we're like, "Oh god, the Borg are terrifying."
First Contact did something to me. I was like, I'm not sure how old I was. I was like maybe 12 or 13, because my brother was huge, or is still, but like was huge into Star Trek. So every single Star Trek series or show or anything I got to watch was because he was basically hoarding the TV and VHS privileges at the
Mhm.
house. So I was kind of like forced to watch whatever he was watching, which luckily Star Trek was one of those things. And the Borg Queen, to this day, lives rent-free in my brain.
Is
And
it because
back
of that
then-
part where she drops into her body and she's just the wiggly boob? Sorry.
I don't remember
I
that.
don't
Having never
remember
seen
that.
Star Trek,
Well,
I have
there's, like-
no idea what we're talking
I
about.
There's a part of her where it's like she's got the like bald head, which
Yeah.
and she's like from here down, they like detach her from her body and her spine.
Oh yeah,
like,
yeah, yeah.
wiggle
I
out.
remember that.
Oh.
Yeah.
So she's
no,
just head, boob, and spine.
I had completely forgotten about that, but now that you remind me, yes, I do have a recollection. No, it was because I just thought she and Picard were like, I don't
Gonna
know,
get
like
it on.
I had like you know how Heartstopper made like a reference to the fact that Pirates of the Caribbean with Keira Knightley and Orlando Bloom was everyone's bisexual awakening? I think Picard and the Borg Queen were that for me.
I mean, valid.
Both were
No.
bold and beautiful, you know. So.
I'll talk more about it in the media, but I have been like going back and watching TNG, and I have some thoughts, but I'll save it for when we get to media.
Okay. We should
Yeah.
talk about books. Who's been reading stuff, Bree?
Yeah, I'm reading. It's called Bold, but is it Bold but Not Too Bold? It's a Tor.com novella about like an eldritch horror spider lady and the woman who like is serving her as her maid. And I'm about halfway through and I've been really enjoying that. And then I just started for my audiobook reading Rose House by Arcady Martin, which I'm super intrigued by. It's like the premise is like AI, but it's a haunted house, right? So like the AI is the haunting apparition in the house essentially. And like no one can go into the house because of an eccentric like Will. And so like what happens? And I'm super excited to listen to more of that.
I read it a few years ago when it was nominated for the Hugo, and I had some complicated thoughts on it. Like I thought
Wasn't
the premise
that
was
just
cool, but
last year?
yeah.
Yeah. I also had complicated thoughts about it. It was a mixed bag for me.
My complicated thoughts.
I'd never want to like dampen anyone's excitement about a book they've just started reading though. So I want to hear your thoughts about it when you
Yeah.
finish it, Bree.
My complicated
super
thoughts
enjoyed
about
it.
Subterranean Press is always that it's pay gated and like not available outside of the US until like
Yes, but there's
many moons after.
a wide release of Rose House happening. Maybe from what publisher is it? Is it
Tor.
Tor.com? It's Tor.
Mm. Yeah.
So
Yeah,
Rose House is it out already, the new edition, or is it soon?
It's being heavily marketed, so it's either out or coming out very soon.
I'm a little disappointed that they changed the cover, because like my favorite thing about that book, I think, was the original cover art.
I really like that cover art too, yeah.
Have you been reading anything else, Brie?
Mostly just those two. We've been going through, and I've been watching a lot of Star Trek, mostly Voyager, though, and I have
Did you
some
watch
like
Threshold?
lingering things. No, I have not watched Threshold. But mostly I'm watching it on Pluto because it's free there, and it's really easy to like just turn it on and it just keeps going. So yeah, nothing else super new in my book life, but that is okay.
And
Rachel?
yeah, Rose House, the edition from Tor, is out now. It came out a couple days ago. Speaking of Subterranean Press, I am very proud of myself. I got my copy of The Orb of Kairado by Catherine Addison, and I had it finished within like 3 days. So I actually read something as soon as it came into my house.
I bought that one and I have not read it. I still refuse to read anything else in that universe until I reread The Goblin Emperor.
I was also very tempted to do that, but I
Valid.
kind of screwed myself because when I started reading Orb of Kairado, I was talking to my dad about it, and I was like, wait a minute, Dad, have you read these books? And I let him borrow my books, so I can't reread them right now.
I wish Broken Binding would reissue their edition of Goblin Emperor and the bind up of Witness for the Dead and the second one, just because they're very pretty, but I am not paying resale market price for them.
Yeah.
I am very happily an owner of the first edition of Goblin Emperor in hardcover, and I'm never gonna give it up.
Yeah, see, I have the mass market paperback, and I refuse to get the new version because I hate the new cover, because the old cover is perfect. I
The
just
old
wish
cover is iconic. Why would
Yes.
you ever change that? I was tempted by the Subterranean Press edition of Goblin Emperor until I saw the cover art and was like, I mean, it's nice, but it's not Goblin Emperor.
Yeah,
Wait,
it's
I
like
don't know
the
what the Subterranean Press cover looks like. I'm going to look this up.
I remember
the
it being very
the
wispy and
Balbusa twins
ethereal.
are just next level.
Yeah. So I read that. I enjoyed it. It is such a standalone story, but the premise of it begins after the airship crash from the beginning of the Goblin Emperor. The main character of the story, his best friend, was the captain of the airship that crashed and sets off the succession thing for the Goblin Emperor. And it's a mystery about a lost artifact, which might actually be the key to another lost artifact. And it's also a lot about like academia. Like the whole plot is basically somebody accused of stealing something. They get kicked out of academia. They want back in, but after all of these hijinks, they have to go somewhere else if they want to continue doing their research. So I enjoyed it. And it kind of continued that. I feel like all the books in this world are kind of melancholy in some way. They're dark, and things don't always go very well for the characters, but they're doing their best. So yeah, I definitely enjoyed it, and I really want to reread the other books now. I also have the third book in the Witness for the Dead series, so I need to read that too. But once again, my dad has it right now, so he better hurry up on that. I also finally caught up on the rest of A Bride's
Nice.
story by Kaoru Mori. So I read the last 5 volumes at least since the last live show. So I'm hoping we eventually get a publication date for the English version of volume 15 because I need it. And there are still new characters being introduced in this.
Yep.
Like a whole set, like three new brides and a whole new clan of tribespeople are in volume 14.
I think the 14th volume is about Amir's brother, right?
Yes.
Like mostly because he's getting
Azo.
he's getting his bride on.
Which I thought was very, very funny that we tend to have like all this build up for some of the relationships and the marriages, and it's like they're waiting so long and there are so many complications, and no, volume 14 is like, hi, we need an alliance, let's have a horse race, and if you win you all get married tomorrow.
Yep.
I was like, okay.
But I think it's also because like the whole premise of the story is kind of like also showing the different cultures around the Silk Road.
Yes.
It's also, that's why it's introducing like this different tribes. So you get the whole, I actually think that it's fantastic specifically for the diversity of showing the diversity, cultural practices and diversity of the region, especially since like most of the cultures are like Muslim. So I think that series actually has done a lot in terms of like bringing more awareness to Western audiences about like
so
cultural practices and stuff.
The one Western, like European character, Mr. Smith, in the story, I originally did not care for his adventures. I was like really disappointed when it went away from Amir and Karluk. Is that her husband's name?
Yeah, Karluk. Yeah.
I never remember his name for some reason. When the story shifted away from him, I was like, but they're the main characters. Why are we following this white dude stumbling around on camelback, just trying to figure out where to go and talk to people? And his story has actually gotten very interesting. Maybe because it's kind of where the author is talking more about the war, like the Russian invasion of this region at that time, which I honestly have never heard anything about. So, and we're seeing it from the perspective of people who live in the region as well. So I think that's really interesting. But the bit where he gets a camera and he's wanting to take photographs of people is just, I love it. Like, yeah, it was oddly emotional because like he shows up in villages that like they know that cameras exist, but they've never seen them. They've never seen themselves like that, and he's taking pictures for them. And I was like, it was great. And I did finish Running Close to the Wind by Alexander Roland. I still would prefer if they had Avra just walk the plank and actually drown, but at least, I mean, obviously his luck would not have allowed that to work out.
Okay, but did you enjoy the cake competition?
I did. So I kept bursting out laughing in the second half of the book, especially when they got to the cake competition things. It was just, yeah. But I feel like so much of the story was trying to make Avra and Taveri happen, and I did not want them to happen. Just, they're so bad for each other. And what I really wanted was like a throuple with Julian, and we almost sort of get that, and then the book ends, and I'm like, really, Alexander Roland, you couldn't have given us one more chapter and finally give people the fan service that they wanted?
No.
Like, so Julian is an ex-monk dedicated to the pursuit of knowledge who took a vow of celibacy, and a huge running thing in the book is that everyone on the pirate ship really wants to get in his pants because he's handsome. He's like the specimen, okay? And he knows it, and he's very nice about it, but he's also really great at flirting with people. So there are all these moments of tension. And then at the end of the book, he kisses one person, and it's not the person that I wanted him to kiss.
So I don't know if I've told you guys this. I went to a Catholic undergrad that had a seminary and a pre-seminary program. And one of the things that was like very popular with a lot of the like, let's just say the girls, right? Like the lived in the dorms, you know, that kind of like went to parties and stuff, was to lay out in bikinis in front of the girls' dorm and see if they could like tempt a seminarian. Like they didn't want to be clear, they did not want to take these boys home, right? Like this was not like they weren't looking for a husband or a boyfriend. They just wanted to make a seminarian feel bad about themselves.
Wow.
Amazing.
I don't know why, but this just reminds me of Derry Girls, where everyone is like head over heels for the hot priest until he gets a different haircut and is kind of like revealed to be a kind of a jerk, and then everyone is just like full on mocked.
Michael's response to him, she's just like so fed up and annoyed with him. Sister Mike, like that's why I can't cancel Netflix, although I need to downgrade my subscription, is because I won't have access to Derry Girls.
Derry Girls is so good though.
It is really good. Okay, I've been going on for too long about what I'm reading. Other things that I'm currently reading, I'm reading Alien Clay by Adrian Tchaikovsky, which is one of his newer books. He's so prolific, I can't keep them straight now, but I think this came out the end of last year. It should be my thing. Alien planet, lost civilization. Who were the intelligent species that built these chimney things? But so far, it's way more about the prison camp and brewing revolution. So I'm hoping that eventually, you know, they revolt and it has something to do with the lost aliens. If anybody has read this and tells me like if it gets a little bit more into archaeology, let me know. Because I am enjoying it. It's just the blurb on the back was a bit heavier on, you know, extraterrestrial artifacts. I also started reading A Pocket Full of Lies by KJ Charles in my quest to finally finish every single little thing in her back catalog. This is a bind up of a lot of her like short stories, novelette length things, most of which I haven't read before. So I'm going to get through this. Yeah.
Are any of those like related to the Magpie Lord?
At least one. I think two. I think two in here are from that world. I don't think any of them are specifically about Stephen and what's his face.
Yeah.
What's his name? Oh my god!
I can't remember. Sunshine. Cute.
Hey, pretty girl.
It's so easy to bribe her so we can actually see her face.
Yeah, Hermes doesn't go for bribery.
So yeah. Oh, I've also been extremely slowly listening to Unconquerable Sun by Kate Elliott. It's the second book in that series, which is like gender flipped Alexander the Great in space. I just have not had audiobook time, and it's like 20 hours long or more, even like sped up. So I'm enjoying it, but I read the first one in print, and this one I'm listening to the audiobook and I'm finding it harder to keep track of all the characters because there are new characters now. So I feel like I might have to go back to the print book at some point to like get some of the stuff straight, but
I am read that one, but I think I'm gonna reread book one first.
I think I should have reread book one or read a really good summary of it. 'Cause I loved the first book, and I realized there's just so many things that I did not remember. I actually went back and I rewatched my own video review of it, which I haven't watched one of my own videos in so
I
long.
do that to remind myself of prior books in series too.
Yeah, I was like, I know that I
what
loved
did I
this.
say about the first book?
Yeah, what did I think was important enough to mention? I'm like, I don't remember half of the stuff that I was raving about. So yeah, should have reread it. But yeah, that is me with my reading.
Why don't you look at the camera, my girl? There we go.
All right, if we're still going Wittershims, I'm next. So I've had like a little bit of a weird reading thing since we last spoke. So I finished 2 new things, and then I reread 6 of the 7 Murderbot entries, mostly in one day too. And I will talk about. So the 2 new books that I read were The Practice, The Horizon, and the Chain by Sophia.
I also read that one.
And so, yeah, I read that one for the Hugos, and I liked it, but I think it was a little too parable-y for me. So for folks who haven't read that, it's set on these ships, and from what I gather, they like find asteroids and they like lock down and mine them. And so there's a caste system in place where there's the people who do the mining, they're essentially enslaved. There's like the ankleted, which is like the underclass, so they're between they're like between the enslaved, and then there's the unankleted, which is like the higher class. And it's about this boy and this woman who's a professor, and they don't get names, so they're very much kind of like more abstract.
So my understanding was they don't get names because only the people of the uppermost class get names in this society. No one else gets a name.
Yeah.
And like the woman she works with, because she's a professor and she's, you know, reached this sort of elite level of social hierarchy, but there's no mobility whatsoever between these classes for real, right? So she working, all the people she thinks are her friends are people who have names and have social power and status that she doesn't have. And she sort of thinks that they see her as an equal and learns very rudely that they don't.
Yeah, so I liked it, but I didn't end up nominating it for a Hugo. I thought there was some better novellas that I read. And then the other one that I read was the most recent Tita Rosie's Kitchen novel, so Guilt and Guinatan. And yeah, Rachel, I agree with kind of your main complaints about that one. The next one is going to be the last one. So the series, yeah, she, the author announced on Instagram when she was revealing the cover. So it is wrapping up, which I do think is good. Like I will miss the characters. I do enjoy the characters, but I do think it's good to kind of wrap it up and know that it's going to be the final book, so that hopefully the characters will end in a good spot. Because I think, and I say this as someone who used to read a lot of cozy mysteries, I think one of the problems with like really long-term cozy mysteries is it really wears out its welcome, and sometimes the gimmick is all that is, and like, or it's like very like the author is much more interested in being with the characters and not necessarily the mystery.
Mm-hmm. And one of the things that I've noticed about the series that I like, and I don't think I've really seen it in any other cozy mysteries or something like this, is the characters who are involved in the mysteries and like the murders and stuff, acknowledging that it has a traumatic effect on them.
Mm-hmm.
It's like you can't, if you're acknowledging that, you're making it part of the story and they have to deal with that even after just, you know, 2 mysteries, then having an extremely long, never-ending series wouldn't make sense. Like, no,
Yeah.
you're wearing out your characters. So yeah, so I'm sad it's not gonna be as long of a series as I thought it might be, but I hope it has a good ending and kind of wraps up some things for the characters.
Yeah, so I enjoyed it, but I am kind of ready for it to end and wrap up. And then I started the Karen Loichi novella that came out last year, The Mountain Crown. I'm not super far into it just because I started it while I was traveling and I got distracted and my brain hasn't like really been into reading new things the last
I
couple
also read that one.
the last week. But last week when I was traveling back, I had a very long travel day and I wanted to read something. And I was like, well, Murderbot's dropping in April or in May. So let me just reread All Systems Red because Hoopla has all the novellas and I have audiobooks of Network Effect and System Collapse. And I ended up reading like all the I'm counting oh god, what's the one that came out after Network Effect?
Fugitive Telemetry.
Fugitive Telemetry. So I read All Systems Red, Rogue Protocol, Exit Strategy, the art one, Fugitive Telemetry, and most of Network Effect in a day. I was listening to them on 2 times speed. Again, I had a very long travel day, which is how I did it.
Do you like the audiobook versions of those?
I do.
I
I will
think
say the first time I listened to them, it was a little weird because I was so used to Kevin R. Free as Kevin from Sunny Bluffs and Welcome to
that's
Nightvale.
exactly what I was about to say.
So I was like, why aren't you talking about the smiling god?
Exactly. I was like, I couldn't. When I saw his name on the audiobooks, I was like, I can never listen to these as audiobooks because I will just be thinking the smiling god is inhabiting my favorite robot. Like, no.
I will say I do like his narration. But yeah, the first time I listened to it a few years ago when I was like more regularly listening to Night Vale, was like, Kevin?
I find it really interesting that like a lot of the time, like especially when I like more actively, I still do, but I more actively watched booktube content. So people who were making content about Murderbot, you could clearly see that the people who read it physically, like primarily physically, refer to Murderbot with gender neutral pronouns, and the people who listen to it on audio would use masculine pronouns. Just an interesting anecdote that I found.
It will be interesting to
Yeah.
see how the TV series approaches it. I'm really hopeful that they're playing into Murderbot is shaped to like reflect the perceptions of the company, like what a sec unit would look like, but it's weirdo, I refuse to be human self.
I
Yeah.
really hope that they can pull that off. My issue with like I had no idea that Alexander Skarsgård was cast in that, and I was like, he's just
No.
yes, extreme masculine.
Yeah, that's my concern. But the other cast looks good.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I'm looking forward to the Murderbot show. I need to get a subscription to Apple TV though, so I can watch it, and then maybe also watch like Severance and For All Mankind because I've heard those are very good.
I watched the first season of Severance. I had Apple TV Plus for a while, and I will get it again when Murderbot drops, just to watch Murderbot and season 2 of Severance.
Yeah.
Because I'm trying not to spoil myself for season 2 of Severance, but I don't have the restraint.
Yeah.
I think I'm gonna get spoiled. I haven't watched the series yet, but everybody that I work with is currently obsessed with it, and
I'm also
I'm gonna
obsessed
get
with it.
spoiled.
So that's what I've been reading. I am planning on doing Trans Rights Readathon, so I have a small TBR, mostly of stuff that I already own. I did buy something new because I wanted it on my TBR and I didn't have a copy like I thought I did in ebook or audio. So I bought the Dawn Hounds, but I'm planning on doing The Sapling Cage by Margaret Killjoy. I picked up the audiobook on sale last month.
I have that one out from the library.
The Witch King by H.G. Edgman, which has been on my shelf for a while.
I have that.
Yeah, a couple of R.B. Lemberg books. And then maybe, finally, I'll read Nine Fox Gambit.
You haven't read Nine Fox Gambit?
I have not read it. Do I own the entire trilogy? I do. Have I read Nine Fox Gambit? I have not. I will also say, if Renee is still watching this, I always think of it as Nice Fox Gambit because of that typo. There was a typo where it was like someone was trying to type Nine Fox Gambit and it turned into Nice Fox Gambit.
Ain't nothing nice about it.
Anyway, I always think of that typo, just like whenever I hear about one of the V.E. Schwab YA books, I think it's This Savage Song, I think about our discussion about Monster Dick. It makes sense in context.
Clearly, this is an inside joke that I am not in on.
Basically, we were talking about, like, the final scene, there's, like, fire and stuff, and we're like, well, wouldn't they be naked because the clothes would burn off?
Depends on the type of clothes. Did you know that in Hamilton the musical, when the Eliza is singing the infidelity song "Burn," her dress is actually fire resistant because she has to light stuff on fire in that scene.
Makes sense. Anyway, that's what I've been reading. That's what I'm planning on reading. Magical Readathon is also happening in April, so I need to like go look at the prompts and figure out my TBR for that. So yeah, that's it for me.
Rhea?
Yes. So I actually had a really nice reading month. I had a vacation, so I was basically just binging stuff. So I read Done and Dusted, Swift and Saddled, and Lost and Lassoed by Lila Sage. And these were actually really nice. Okay, with caveats. If you are expecting more than palm-colored people in these books, you're not gonna get it. These are white as milk toast. With extra milk. That's like the most ethnic flavor is that you have a character with Greek heritage, and that's it. That said, these books really delve into stuff like gentle parenting, deconstructing of like because these are cowboy romances, there's a lot of deconstructing of like kind of toxically masculine ideas about specifically American masculinity, I'd say, especially in these two books, like the second and third one. This book can kind of go fuck itself because the whole premise in terms of like the main character, because the main character, like the male lead, is basically like he punches a person in the face because of his jealousy at one point in the story, and then like 20 pages later the main female lead is like, he has always been so even-keeled, and I'm like, even-keeled is not what I'd use to characterize a person who has a history of being bailed out of jail because he gets into fights and who just 20 pages earlier punched a dude in the face because he was making moves on her. Like, even-keeled? No.
I feel like the editor should have pointed that out to the author at some point.
Yeah. I will
That's
say,
it.
I haven't read those books, but it makes it like frustrates me to no end because the first book looks like it's a lesbian novel because it looks like a butch and a femme making out, and I found out it was straight, and I was so disappointed.
I've read too much Tex Willer comics in my youth to like interpret this as anything other than like
I was living in hope. I
A-
want a romance with a butch cowgirl.
but I will say that I have really liked this series. Like it talks about like the first book has like the female lead has ADHD. The second book, one of the leads has like depression. It also talks about like abuse, survival, etc. And actually, the last book, this one, has been my favorite. So, which is interesting because the male lead, who is the main character in this book, has been introduced in the first one, and I hated him for the duration of the first and second books. I was like, I hate this asshole. Like, I can't believe that I have to read a book about this because, like, one of the characters that I liked is the main female lead in this one. And he completely turned me over. Like, I started thinking that he is the most sane out of all of the male leads in this whole series. And he like completely won me over. And I'm like, what is this? Like a guy actually liking a woman and respecting her? What? Like, I think that's the like I think a lot of these kind of gave me Whiskey Business vibes in terms of like the deconstruction of like what masculinity is, like in the male lead specifically. I also like that they like there's a lot of talking about like single parenting, especially what like what it's like to be a single father, and like how the single fathers in this series kind of like raise their like it's a lot of like deconstructing also these kinds of like toxic parenting models, which is just like was such an escapist thing to read as also someone who has not had the best fatherly like role modeling in their life. So like these have been really nice, and they're spicy. No fade to black here, so just take that into consideration if you want to read this. But yeah, I would say that you kind of have to read this one to get everything out of these two, but this one is the worst one, clearly. And this one was my favorite. And then currently I am about 100 and something pages into The Mars House by Natasha Pulley. I'm actually really enjoying this. I'm not sure how I feel about the fact that the arranged marriage situation, because I think the main character has kind of very valid and good reasons to not like the person that they are getting arranged married into.
I will say there more of that is addressed. So
but I'm intrigued. I have been enjoying this. And then on the webtoon front, I am happy to report that
wait for this every month.
Betrayal of Dignity has officially ended its run. It is finished. I am free. I am free as a bird. No more. I will no more have to read it. And that said, the finale was an absolute cop-out. It was an absolute cop-out because it ends in this like it ends in a coronation. The main character gets crowned to be the male lead's like queen, F that guy, and then it goes into this snapshot of the stuff that happens afterwards, that their future. So obviously they get kids because
don't reproduce with that guy.
Yeah, what's better than being with a toxic guy? It's to be baby trapped by him so you can never leave. And it's just
oh my god.
But now I will never have to read it again. And
you're free. You can celebrate by finding a slightly less toxic webtoon.
Oh, I have already done that. The pizza delivery man and the Golden Palace is like delivering every single week. I am very happy about it.
Oh, you talked about that last time. It's about the
it's the late stage capitalism yaoi.
Yeah. It's still good though. It hasn't jumped the shark or anything.
It is still good. I'm hoping so currently there's a little bit of conflict happening because other main character who is struggling with the debt and stuff, he's basically kind of being blackmailed to help his deadbeat father. So he's already barely making kind of ends meet, and now he has to deal with this jackass who is basically coercing him to pay for his like gambling and stuff so that he won't go and harass his mother and stuff. And because of his pride, he doesn't want to talk about it to the other main character, the Swan. He doesn't want to bring it up because he doesn't want to be a burden to him. So it's all about this hyper independence, which is all in character for Woo-won, because he's kind of like always had to fend for himself and kind of like take care of himself and never kind of be a burden to others. So he's kind of like falling into that that kind of coping mechanism of I'm just going to bottle everything up and not talk about it, and I will deal with it myself and it will go away. And in the meantime, Soan is like, Soan is kind of like falling into his coping mechanism, which is basically trying to control everything that is happening around him. And but I think that in this series, I actually trust that the author is gonna address it and is gonna do something interesting with it rather than it's just another toxic BL trope. Because unlike with the other series, in this series, I feel like I am in good hands. But yeah, those are the things that I have been reading.
So it's my turn. I have had a very chaotic reading month because I was panic reading for Hugo nominations, like literally right up till the deadline, like up until the 3 a.m. cutoff for nominations, I was still reading books. So what did I actually finish and what did I not finish? Because like I ended with 3 to 4 books still in progress. I realized I had nothing to nominate for graphic story, so I had a few out from the library, and the 2 I ended up reading were Hilda and Twig Hide from the Rain by Luke Pearson. This is a prequel book in the Hilda series that's kind of an alternate entry point. So you don't have to read any of the other books first. And I liked that this was mostly from Twig's perspective, not Hilda's.
It was really cute.
Twig is the little deer fox. So this was cute and folklorish and had magical animals talking to each other. And then the other one I read was The Pale Queen by Ethan M. Aldridge, which is also folkloric, but like darker and moodier, maybe YA. I don't know. I feel like my library had this shelved as a middle grade graphic novel, but I would have thought just reading it that it was YA because the protagonist is a little bit older, but I could be wrong. I don't know how to categorize this. This is about a girl who lives in an isolated valley and she wants to go to university, but she can't, or an academy of some sort. It's historical-ish feeling, but not like particularly specific as to when or where this takes place. And she gets sort of lured into involvement with the magical mystery woman who is the Queen of the Hills, who may be a Fae Queen or something similar, who keeps trying to lure her into her circle of power by offering magical assistance with various troubles that come with strings attached. And this is sapphic, and it's a little bit spooky and a little bit cute. and I really enjoyed it. I love the art style. I'm trying to find some good art. Like, this is just absolutely gorgeous to me. This is the type of graphic novel art I really love. Like, stuff like this is just I liked this a lot. And then in terms of YA books, because I needed to read things for the Lodestar, I finished reading So Let Them Burn by Camila Cole, and I also read Shane Lende by Darcy Little Badger. And I want to start with this one because this is so good. You all, who all has read this? Rachel,
have
I
No.
loved it.
Yeah,
It was so good.
I am currently waiting for it in the library.
This ended up being good enough that I put it on my best novel ballot in addition to my Lodestar nominating ballot. This is a prequel to Elatsoe, but the only part where I think you'll be like missing something if you haven't read Elatsoe is the epilogue. This follows Ellie's grandmother when she's a teenager and has her own magical adventure quest.
That's with the mammoth? It's a mammoth
is.
that she has the adventure.
Yes.
It does. This is contains the origin story of the mammoth. But this was, you remember how last year when we were discussing the Garth Nix books, the Left-Handed Booksellers
Yes.
series,
Mhm.
and I was saying, like, this is just a very hard sell for me because, like, YA urban fantasy is just such a hard sell for me. You have to be really good at it for me to care. And I feel like Darcy Little Badger is like the author I can point to say, oh, she is doing it well enough that I always care, right? And this was such a gentle book about death and sort of the fear of losing your culture over time as you lose people. And it's also just like, I felt like it was a really well-paced, well-structured sort of mystery quest adventure. Shane, the protagonist of this, and her mother run a sort of unofficial search and rescue operation with their dogs, one of whom is a ghost dog. And so this starts out with missing child case, and then Shane's mother goes missing while looking for the missing children, and then Shane has to figure out what happened to all of them. And it eventually culminates into an afterlife quest. And there's this like looming backstory about Shane's childhood home and the flood that displaced her family from it. And like Elatsoe, it has illustrations by Rovina Kai that sort of tell their own story in the chapter headings. And in this case, the story is about like the life of this tree from when it's planted to when it's eventually cut down and beyond. And it's this tree that features in this backstory about Ellie's family history. Not Ellie's family. I mean, it is Shane's family history. So this was just, this sort of did everything that I wanted it to do just right. Very impressed with that. And then the other YA book I read was So Let Them Burn, which I ended up giving 3 stars, but like a strong 3 stars to So Let Them Burn. I felt like it started off really great. I love the premise, and the 2 protagonists of this book are sisters in this Caribbean-inspired world, where like the backstory is that one of the younger of the 2 sisters was the chosen one of the gods who can wield their power, and was tasked to do this to like overthrow the colonizers in this war that happened in the past when they were younger kids. And now, like some years later, they get drawn into these peace talks with the former colonizing empire. And of course, they're all, everyone has ulterior motives. It did a few things that are just like run-of-the-mill YA stuff that I don't have the greatest tolerance for anymore, that, are the sort of things that I wouldn't have noticed or cared about as much when I was younger, like how there are just so very few real adult characters who seem to have any power in the story. And the pacing for parts of it felt weird. There's a lot that just sort of gets skimmed over to get to the more important stuff. The 2 sisters get separated because one of them ends up bonding to one of the colonizer nation's dragons and has to go back to the colonizer nation with the dragon, and get drawn into political intrigue there. And we just rushed past so much there, I thought. But then I thought the ending was just really fun, really fast-paced, really engaging, and I want to know what happens next. So I probably will read the second book at some point. Yeah, the other thing that it did that I didn't totally love, that was just a thing in YA so often, is you get the characters, both protagonists, like paired up with a secondary character that they have to work with for plot reasons. And of course, both of them are going to end up being kind of romancy, and it's like, okay, everyone couples up. But that was something that I thought was good enough to put on my Lodestar ballot. But like, compared to Shane Lende, like this is the kind of YA that I really want to be reading, right? Like, I get so frustrated with YA so often, and then something comes along where I'm like, oh yes, this is why I still love YA, right? And then I read The Practice, The Horizon, and The Chain, which we talked about a bit earlier, which I think I probably liked a little bit more than Die, because I did decide to nominate it. I had just one nominating spot left on my ballot for a Tor.com novella once I filled out 4 of my spots with stuff from other publishers, and I was choosing between this and The Butcher of the Forest.
See, I did Butcher of the Forest because I liked that one more.
I didn't finish Butcher of the Forest in time.
I think I enjoyed Butcher of the Forest more, but I'm not going to remember it. Like, it's not going to stick with me as much as the Practice Horizon and the Chain did. I think because this is a little more. I think because this one did demand a little bit more of me trying to engage with it and like puzzle out its themes and like what was going on with some of the kind of more spiritual woo-woo stuff. So I felt like this one had me more engaged with it, whereas I like passively enjoyed The Butcher of the Forest a bit more. I don't know. I might be just, back justifying my impulsive late night 2 a.m. nominating decisions here. And then the other novella I read was The Mountain Crown, which is a kind of Western-ish dragon book. It is going to be the first in a trilogy. I don't know if the second book is out yet, but I looked.
Second book is out, and the cover just was announced for the third.
I think this is going to be a series where each book follows a different protagonist. So this book is about a woman from the indigenous culture of an area that's been pushed out who gets like a permit to go to this kind of Western frontier town in the place where she's originally from and gather is what it's called, some of the dragons that live in the mountains. And she gets sort of pressed into a situation taking these two other men along with her who have like a very complicated backstories with each other, and it gets a little explosive by the end. I enjoyed this. I also found it a little hard to get into in the beginning. I don't know if it was just like getting used to the style of the storytelling, and once I was in it, or if the beginning is just a little rough to get over. But I was totally on board by the end. Did I read anything else? No. So the books that I still had in progress when nominations closed that I was reading for the Hugos, that I still have all of them in progress, were Black Heart Man by Nella Hopkinson, which I got 50% of the way through on audiobook. I am finding this book to be really, really interesting. Sorry, I'm having a bit of a mucus situation. Does someone else want to talk about something while I go blow my nose?
Did we want to talk about media? Because I think we've pretty much wrapped up. Aside.
Oh
from
yeah, we're
Yeah, I definitely have some things to talk about.
I have one thing that I want to talk about, and I will be
Go
quick.
ahead.
I can go first. So 2 days ago, I finally caved because Netflix and friends were like, "Hey, Extraordinary Attorney Woo on Netflix is a thing you should watch." So I've been binging it. I've watched 8 episodes in 2 days.
Wow.
They're pretty. I think most of the episodes are over an hour long too.
Yeah, probably like an hour and 5 minutes or so.
Yeah.
And the last episode, I think, is like 1 hour and 30 minutes, so it's like full of a movie.
So I don't have the greatest track record of starting like Korean TV shows and liking them and like getting past the first episode. So I was like, oh, I'll try it and see. I think it's going to be too like cutesy weird for me. I don't like a lot of the over the top like special effects, sound effects stuff. However, I am completely hooked on this show. Like obsessively thinking about it, hooked on it, would just like to use all my free time to finish watching it. and I'm hoping there will actually be a second season of it. I can tell that it's a show for me because so it follows an autistic genius, like savant attorney in Korea. She's the first autistic attorney in the country, and she's obsessed with whales as well as like having near perfect recall of anything legal that she reads. And I can tell this is a show for me because like all of my favorite scenes are the whale talk scenes.
Okay, that actually kind of sold me on the show because like I too love whales.
Yeah. So I don't like there's a love interest and stuff in this, and there are those scenes where it's like, oh, are they gonna get close? Are they gonna confess? Are they gonna kiss or whatever? But no, they just run away. But actually the ones that I really like between them are when she's like, is it whale talk time? Can we talk about whales? And he's like, yeah, it's lunchtime. I will listen to you talk about whale facts while we eat. And I love it.
That's so cute.
I've had so many recommendations of that show, but I haven't watched it because like Korean dramas do not have the best track record with portraying autism, so I have been very worried. But I watched I don't remember. There's this autistic content creator that I follow on YouTube who does a lot of like autism awareness type content of explainers and stuff, and she made a video about the show and said that it was like, at least to her, like good representation. So I have been wondering if I should watch it.
I think there is good representation in it. I sometimes think that the portrayal of the character, like her, let's call them her physical traits of autism or whatever, are maybe a little bit exaggerated. However, I think a lot of it has a basis in reality. It's just they're creating a character with all of the characteristics of someone with autism rather than just some of them. So I think in that sense it's unrealistic, but otherwise I think there is a lot of commentary about the fact that she is autistic and the way that she is discriminated against at work and in society and just like casual conversations. And that's one of the things that immediately endeared me to the series is the way that the people who work with her, and even when they don't really know her that well, like they stand up for her. And like the guy who basically is her boss and mentor, like his first interaction with her is, holy crap, why did you hire this person? She can't do this job. And by the end of the episode, he like point blank apologizes to her for doing that. And I like it. Like just these little casual interactions, like one of the people who like he meets her when she's trying to go through a revolving door and she's really struggling with it, and he like helps her get through the door, like gives her a little trick for it. And people will just open her water bottles for her because she really struggles with opening the caps on water bottles. So there's like they'll just be talking and they'll reach over and take it and like, here you go. So I like that. There's also some excellent acting. Like they're able to just like veer from hilarious, little over the top, weird camp moment to a scene where like I'm just crying. Like the end of episode 8 where the main character, I don't want to spoil anything, but she has a pretty brief conversation with the head of a rival law firm. It's amazing. Just watching facial expressions, just stunning. So anyway, that's me. I'm hooked on this show.
Yeah,
Go ahead.
Like I said, I've been watching Star Trek Next Generation. It took me literal years to get through season 2, but I finally did it. I think part of the problem is with season 2, like season 1, in my opinion, was like not good, and there was like very few like good episodes, but everyone's like, oh no, it gets better, it gets better. And then season 2, I think my problem with it is it was like there were some like really good episodes, but everything else was like not bad, but bland. And I think that was my problem with it, is like, if it's a bad show but I'm told it gets better, it's easier for me to power through than if if it just feels bland with like some highlights, like the Data trial episode, the Moriarty episode, the Borg episode. Like, those were all very good, but like, I could not tell you almost anything else about season 2. But I've started season 3. I'm enjoying it much more so far. I'm glad Crusher's back, although Pulaski did grow on me as a character.
Seasons 1 and 2, that's Riker without beard, right?
Riker has a beard in season 2.
It's
Okay,
just
okay.
season 1. He's
But
babyface.
season 3 is, I think, when Gene Roddenberry took a step back, I think due to his health. And I think that helped the show a lot.
Yeah,
Because
probably.
it let the writers explore some different dynamics.
Yeah, is that also when they started integrating the cast into directing more?
I don't know. I haven't looked at the directors, but
I think that's actually on the 3rd season when,
yeah, so I'm
Yeah.
on
when
season
that
3,
happens.
so maybe it is.
Yeah,
I'm
because after a while, the cast was doing a lot of the directing, especially
And also
Jonathan Frakes.
script doctoring.
Yeah.
I did not know that. I had no idea about that with TNG.
Yeah,
I have noticed how many episodes of Leverage that Jonathan Frakes directed.
I love his ties with Leverage. There's like a lot of Star Trek stuff, because like in season 1, you have both Brett Spiner, who plays Data, and Armin Shimmerman, who played Quark. In the trial episode, LeVar Burton shows up in an episode in Leverage Redemption season 2.
Oh, really? I have that to look forward to. So my parents and I have finished the 5 seasons of Leverage. We just started Redemption.
Isn't the finale
And
like such a good finale?
It was a good finale, and we continue to just love Parker. I mean, like the first season of Redemption, and we're all like, "Oh my god, no more Nate." I mean, this is sad, but we're so happy he's not there anymore. And then Parker shows up, and she's like, I really want to crawl through some vents." We were dying.
Yeah, they announced season 3 is coming out soon, so I'm very excited about that. Let's see. Oh, I also started watching Watson on Paramount Plus. It's airing on CBS, because we've been doing like a mini Sherlock Holmes read along in my Nessa's Discord, and Watson the show, like, the nicest thing I can say about it is that it is aggressively fine. Like, it's not good.
Just
not
okay.
It is
Aggressively fine, like aggressively mediocre.
like, part of the problem, like, I think the actors are good and they're doing okay with what they have. Morris Chestnut as Watson, like, he's very charismatic, and I'm very sad that he's not in a better show. But it's a show that doesn't know if it wants to be a medical show or a procedural, and I think it's having issues with that, because the idea is it's set after Reinbach Falls, where Holmes is dead, and so he leaves Watson money to start a clinic, and Watson has a TBI, a traumatic brain injury from that, so he's dealing with like concussion, hallucinations, and another character who shows up in the Holmes canon, Shinwell, is like involved, and there's like leftover stuff from Moriarty, and like, it's fine. I'll probably keep watching season 1 just to see like what they do with it, but I will say the showrunner pissed me off, because he's like, oh, we're including Irene because she's Sherlock's love interest in the canon. It's like, no, she's not. She was never his love interest in the canon. This is a prime example
She has never
of
been
being accepted as canon, because Irene never had any romantic interest in Holmes. She was getting married to someone else in the story that she showed up in. And this is my berserk button, is Irene Adler in Sherlock Holmes adaptations. The only one where like I don't mind them being like it was romantic between Irene and Sherlock is Elementary, because they actually did something
because they
fun with
subvert it in a different way.
Yeah, they like did a great subversion with it. So Craig Sweeney, watch yourself. But I will say it's mostly making me want to rewatch Elementary, which is like not a great, like a ringing endorsement of a show.
Here's the thing. I've never finished watching Elementary. I think I've watched all but like the last 2 seasons. But
Yeah,
like
season 6 was
Elementary, I still have a soft spot. Oh my god, look at this.
Aw. Hermes, look, we got 2 voids.
Double void.
Yeah, season 6 with Elementary was rough because they thought it was going to be the final season. And so they wrote it as it was going to be the final season. And then CBS was like, psych, we're going to renew you. And we're extending your episode order. So like season 6 has like some weirdness to it that is like very much not the showrunner's fault.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's and in sports news, NWSL is back, women's soccer is back. I'm very excited. It started on Friday. My team won. It was a very tense win. They probably should have tied. Games yesterday were fun. NWSL After Dark is back, which is anytime that there's a evening game on the West Coast. Like, here's the thing. NWSL is a chaos league. Weird things happen in this league. Weird things seem to happen most often on West Coast evening games, which is why NWSL After Dark came into existence. And we had that yesterday. We had some NWSL After Dark madness. So I'm very excited. They're back. I need to look at the Portland Thorns schedule and go to some games. Portland Thorns are going to be bad this year. Apologies if anyone here is a Thorn fan. I am not. They're just my closest local team. But yeah, it's going to be bad for the Thorns.
So I went to the movies recently and watched Mickey 17, directed by Jong Bong-ho, and it was an experience. So the Cliff Notes plot of the story is that the titular character of Mickey needs to get the hell out of Earth to basically escape loan sharks, or like he's in debt as one is, so he needs to escape Earth so that he won't be like killed by his debtors. And so what he does is that he signs up as an expendable on this space mission to colonize a faraway planet. And he, in his role as an expendable, he's basically used as a test subject and put into these various dangerous situations to, for example, test the atmosphere on the planet, and used as a test subject on various like medicine and stuff, because if he dies, they will just reprint his body, and he has basically signed his life away to be used in this way. And so basically the title refers to the fact that he has died 16 times, and it's now the 17th Mickey that is like that is the main character. And it is a critique of capitalism, but if you have seen any other movie by this director, for example Parasite or Train to Busan, you will know that like this is not new for him, but I think this movie especially is like very unsubtle about it. It's like he like looked at people who liked Parasite and what kind of people were liking Parasite, and are like, you are misinterpreting my work, so I am making sure that there is no misinterpreting this work. And Mark Ruffalo plays the villain, and he's just basically doing a Trump impression. Like the whole movie, he's just mugging the camera. He has these like ridiculous veneers on, and like is like like does the act, like the speech, and I was just like, oh no, this is like this is like the point is hitting me in the face with a fist with like brass knuckles on. Like it was actually kind of painful.
So, has anyone here read the book? Because I'm kind of curious how much came from the source material.
I have not read the book myself.
I didn't realize it was a book.
Yeah, I realized it in this movie because it was like it's adapted from the book of the same name. So I have not read it.
Joe's here. I would swear that Joe read Mickey 17. Maybe he knows.
But I will say, I liked it. I'm conflicted because I liked parts of it, and the parts I liked, I really liked. Like Robert Pattinson is actually really good in this movie. I wouldn't be surprised if I wouldn't be surprised if he actually got some kind of award for this role. The rest of the cast is kind of just there. Like for example, the a few of the side characters, they don't really get characterized very well. Like Steven Yeun's character, basically, like what's he even doing there? He's just there to provide some type of comical relief at some point, being like the kind of guy who gets away with anything and kind of falls on his feet, even though he's he's basically like exploiting the capitalist system. And even though he's also not rich or anything, he always manages to kind of land on his feet and like get away with stuff. And that's his character, the entirety of his character. He doesn't really contribute anything of note. Naomi Acker's character, I think, is best characterized, but it kind of falls into this, like a lot of the women characters fall into the manic pixie dream girl type tropes. And especially like the way that the supposedly, and I say supposedly because there's not really on page confirmation on this, the queer character is like, she's implied to be in a relationship with another woman, and then that character, and this is not a spoiler because it happens very early on in the movie, that character dies. And she goes to Mickey, who is always reprinted, and asks about what's it like to die, and that it's supposed to be this moment of like grief and stuff. And then she comes on to him, and I'm like, wait, what? There's no rhyme or reason for it. There's no explanation. We've kind of been, it's been established that she at least has had some kind of relationship, possibly romantic relationship with this other woman. And then suddenly it's like, okay, but she's there for the male titillation. And then that goes nowhere. And I was just like, oh, okay. And I just couldn't get on board with that. It could have been cut entirely and you wouldn't have missed anything. It didn't matter to the story at all. So, as said, I'm very conflicted. I usually like Jung Boon-ho's work. But this one was... let's say the stuff that I didn't like, I really did not like immensely did not like. The other, speaking of other adaptations, I watched Electric State yesterday, which is adapted from Simon Stålenhag's graphic novel / art book novel, which I really love. I love Simon Stålenhag's work. And this movie was bad.
It looked bad. It looked
was
real bad.
Bad. First of all,
what is the title of the movie?
Electric State.
Okay.
It has Chris Pratt and Millie Bobby Brown. You can watch it on Netflix. And the good thing is it's relatively short. It has one cute robot, which I liked, who is voiced by Anthony Mackie, even though I have some thoughts about Anthony Mackie based on his recent comments. But anyway, but the movie is just bad. It was not good, and it did not manage to capture the atmosphere and feeling of what Electric State is about. and I was shocked to know that Simon Stollenhag is actually an executive producer in the film, and I'm like, how could you let them butcher your work this way? Like, man, this was not great.
Yeah, I saw the budget for that and I was looking at some of the stills and I'm like, I'm pretty like I have no proof, but I feel in my heart of hearts that the Russos are using Netflix to launder money or something because there's no reason their movies should be like $200 million or something absurd like that.
Huh.
I think part of the $200 million went to Pratt's salary, and another. The one thing is that Netflix is quite aggressively marketing this movie.
I had noticed that they're really aggressively marketing it.
You said Chris Pratt, and I was like, "Oh, there's your problem right there."
Yep. Chris Pratt.
I mean,
yep. Chris
for a
Pratt
couple
playing
reasons.
Chris Pratt. But yeah, those are the main two things that I've been watching. But a good thing, a very very good thing that I will highly recommend is the on Netflix. There's this anime show called Blue Box, which is it's a high school romance, and it's really cute. It's basically about this basketball player and badminton player, and they basically like the basketball player, she goes to practice in the mornings, and she meets this guy who plays badminton, and they kind of admire each other from afar, and the guy has a crush on her, and it's really cute. It actually shows like a slow burn romance between these characters, and they are actual teenagers with teenage problems, and it isn't like mini adults trying to do romance. They actually suck at it, and they suck at the communication part, and they're just trying to figure stuff out, and like life keeps like happening, and they're both like in competitive sports, so of course there's a huge part dedicated also to the sport aspect in the show, and it's just beautifully animated. So if you have the chance, there's currently I think 22 or 23 episodes out, and I think it's gonna be like a 24 or 26 episode show.
So I have a thing that I've been watching actually that is on the opposite end of the spectrum, as in it is pure schlock. But I have been rewatching The 10th Kingdom, which is a miniseries that came out in like 2000. Literally, you can see the Twin Towers in the opening shots, and then like the next year, 9/11 happened.
Oh.
But it is about a girl who falls into like a fairy tale land, and it is incredibly cheesy. There are trolls who love the Bee Gees. Everything basically sings. There's a golden dog with a guy with a Midas touch. It's phenomenal and super schlocky. It's I think 8 episodes, and I'm like at the point I'm on episode 3, and they go to an entire town that is just based around Little Bo Peep. Which sounds not funny and is in fact incredible. That is my contribution to this.
Also, Joe, that particular Chris is no one's favorite. He's the least best Chris.
It's so interesting because I remember back when Parks and Rec was airing, like people did enjoy his stuff, and I remember people being excited about him being in Marvel and in Jurassic World, and his stock went down so precipitously.
Yeah.
I mean, part of it was that he like at first wasn't he kind of just lovably schlubby?
Yeah, like that was his whole thing, like when he was in
and then he was, a Hillsong guy, so.
Oh yeah. Well, and then he divorced his wife, Anna Faris, and like got with one of the Schwarzenegger girls, and
I think it's like a part of the really religiosity of it all.
Oh yeah.
Like the pandering to the conservative
100%
kind of stuff. So it's like, ugh.
I will accept 2 Chris's as the best Chris. One of them is Chris Pine.
Pine is the best Chris.
The man is a bard. I'm still a little angry at him because he partook in the J.J. Abrams Star Trek, and I'm still just a little bruised around that. Okay,
See,
and then
I
I will
like
also take
the
Hemsworth.
first one. The first J.J. Abrams
The
Star Trek was
first one was
okay.
fun. The
And then
second one is bad. The
and
third
then we do
one
not
is
talk
they
about
took an
Surprisingly good.
episode of the original series and made it into a feature film, which is why it's the best.
Meh.
And so, yeah, no, I'm just a little salty. More, I'm still mad at J.J. Abrams than I'm mad at Chris Pine because Chris Pine keeps doing incredibly schlocky real life bard shit.
Yeah,
And
like I love
I love
I love Chris Pine's red carpet looks, especially when I'm not sure if he's still rocking the Santa Claus beard,
He's
but
not.
not right now, I don't think, but it was
But
good.
when he was, he had like the best red carpet attire. He would just show up in like Crocs and like a Hawaiian shirt and like a weird suit. And I was
My
like, yes.
With it.
favorite thing with Chris Pine is the theory that was going around that Chris Pine was Chuck Tingle because we've never seen them in the same location.
Well, why? Oh man.
I think it was because we found out that while he was at Berkeley, Chris Pine like took a class on erotic writing and like took it seriously, like wasn't just there for like tee-hee. I'm like
Oh.
writing. So he was like there to learn how to do erotic writing.
Every time I find something out about him, because I didn't know that, I'm just like, I think I like you more.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Bree,
We are getting close to 2 hours here. I don't have any media to talk about this month. Has everyone had a chance to talk about media? Because I have not been moderating.
I think
We've been
so. Unless,
self-moderating.
yeah.
I think we have. I will say that I beat Typhon in Hades 2 Warsong update. I have now beaten him twice, and it was so bad that I got a proper blister on my thumb, and it was just like it was like an actual like, you know how like that water-filled blister. It was like comical. My thumb was like half its normal size because there was so much friction of me just like hitting the attack and special like in
This
like
is making
subsequently.
me so excited and so nervous for when it gets like a real release and I can finally play it.
But basically, I have been playing Hades and enjoying it, despite it being an impediment on my physical health. It seems.
Yeah, I have been mostly playing Horizon Forbidden West, and I did go back to Veilguard. I have not finished playthrough number 5. I will, like, in my defense, I've not finished it, but I have started it. But one of the former BioWare creators, Mike Laidlaw, he founded a new studio, and they have a indie game that came out called Eternal Strands that I picked up that I want to play soon.
Cool.
And then because I ran away right when I was at the end of talking about books, I did want to talk a bit about my TBR for possible TBR ideas for the Trans Rights Readathon. And I wanted to plunk the info for the event in the chat so everyone has the link. Yeah, Di, you mentioned the sapling cage and I also have that out from the library. So this is something that's a high priority for me. And then I got approved for a NetGalley arc of Akwaeke Emezi's new YA fantasy novel, Somadina. So I'm very excited about that. So that might happen. And then I don't know. I have a bunch of other things that I could read. I have Four Profound Weaves, which I've had for years.
I love that one. It's so good.
It's really good. I should
I have
reread
Dark and
that.
Deepest Dread, which I've also had for years. Like these two have both been on like my bedside table bookshelf of like, you should really read these for a long, long time without me reading them. So But then I might get
Back
some
to
other
A.M.
things.
Macklemore.
I feel like I have a bunch of other things I could read too, but those are just some of my priorities. I just wanted to make sure, because we had been talking about it, that I put the link in the chat for people.
I realized I have Celestial the Sunbearer Trials from Aidan Thomas on my shelf, so I might also try that. Although I will say I haven't been like super. I picked it up because I really liked Cemetery Boys, but part of the reason I haven't read it is like competition stories are just like not my jam right now.
That was kind of what I didn't like. That was one of the things that, I mean, I won't discourage you from reading it, but
It was okay.
yeah, it was.
Yeah.
All right, I'm going into it with like middling expectations. Let's put it there.
And then hopefully you will be positively surprised.
Yeah. Who knows?
Yeah, I never read Cemetery Boys because
It was good. I really like Cemetery
because of
Boys.
my aforementioned like trepidation about YA urban fantasy and how I usually don't like it. And but yeah, and I thought, so okay, Sunbearer Trials is his secondary world fantasy novel. I'll clearly like this better, except I ended up being like very frustrated with some of the world building in it, and like it's like maybe I should have read the urban fantasy. Maybe that would have been better. Yeah. So if we are ready to do our going around saying where we can find all of us on other platforms, we're gonna go Widdershins again. I'm gonna start with Bree.
Cool. I'm Bree Reads Books on YouTube, on Instagram, and on Blue Sky. I no longer have a Twitter as of quite a while ago at this point. I am considering doing the new Blue Sky photo app, so you might be able to find me there soon. I'm
Wait,
not
there's
sure.
a Blue Sky photo app. Please tell.
Mhm.
Is it the Pixel Fed?
No, it's a new one. I don't know if it's one.
Flashes?
Oh yeah, Flashes.
Flashes, yeah. I don't know if is it publicly available yet?
I have no idea.
I think it's invite
Flashes
still.
for Blue Sky. It looks like it's available for anybody who wants it, and it looks like it's pretty much a one-to-one Instagram replacement. So I will likely be going over there and trying that out because it also should sync with all of my Blue Sky stuff. So that would be cool. So not there yet, but I'll explore it maybe on Monday.
Rachel?
Once again, you can find me in the live shows, and my channel is Colonati. I am Colonati on Blue Sky and Colonati Books on Instagram. I have not been posting much on Instagram, partly because doom scrolling on social media is a problem for me right now. So I try to stay off of it. And I also do not have a Twitter account anymore. I officially nuked it a month or so ago. So goodbye 10 years of my life on social media, but it was time.
You can find me at Bookish Die. I'm mostly on Blue Sky. I still have my Instagram. I'm not really using it that much. I haven't nuked my Twitter, but I don't use it, so don't follow me there. Follow me on Blue Sky.
Oh, I should also say I am on the Storygraph and Goodreads. People still follow me there, so I don't even know what my settings are on the Storygraph for adding friends, but yeah, I'm using that way more for reading stuff. So,
Rhea?
Yeah. First of all, I have almost finished the whole thing, so now I just need to do the black bordering on the thistles, and then it's basically just needs the backing and it's done. You can find me at my channel, The Bookfinch, for these live shows, and I'm still keeping the option open that when I have time, I might do some sporadic videos or sporadic live shows, whichever happens. You can also find me at Blue Sky at The Bookfinch, and I have not yet nuked my Twitter, but I don't post there anymore, and I have not logged in for a while, so don't follow me there. And this was a good reminder that I should probably nuke my Twitter.
And I'm the Fancy Hat Lady Reads on YouTube. This is my channel. I'm also at the Fancy Hat Lady Reads on TikTok, but I haven't been posting there in the last several months. I am on Blue Sky and Mastodon. What are my handles on each of those? Hold on. I always forget what my handles are on different social media. I'm at the Fancy Hat Lady on Blue Sky, and on Mastodon, I'm at Fancy Hat at wandering.shop. And Sunshine is on Instagram at the Fancy Cat Lady Reads. And I am still posting YouTube videos on my channel. I am. I posted one not that long ago. It was my 5-star reads of 2024. I finally did. I refuse to admit that that's late right on time.
It's not late. What even is time now?
You set your own pace.
And we are past time. Thank you, everyone, for joining us for today's stream. It has been a delight. You're all having a very nice day. Bye for now.
And I think we're on Dai's channel next time.
Yes,
so.
Dai's channel next time.
Yes, Dai's channel next time. Bye.
And
Bye-bye.
we might have Hugo.
Oh yeah, that's true. We may have.
Are we
Hugo.
going to do a special stream for Hugo reactions?
I
Or are we going
really
to
want
do-
to host
I hope
another
we
Hugo.
should, unless it's the first weekend in April, because I will be in LA for soccer. 'Cause-
We'll talk about
We'll
it.
talk
might-
about
we
it.
might have
Talk
2
about
live
it.
shows next month.
Chat. I am ending the stream now for real, unless anyone has anything very urgent to say.
Bye bye.
All right, bye, everyone.
Bye.